Okay, it looks like we have folks rolling in. So hello everybody. My name's Keith. I'm going to be the facilitator for this session with Josh. A little bit of housekeeping first before we begin. Welcome to 24 Hours of UX. This is hour 10, so we've just made it past the 1/3 point. Hopefully, based on what this session is about, I suspect a lot of you have been online for a couple hours already. If you're new here, welcome and enjoy the rest of our next 14 hours as much as you can hang around. We've got multiple tracks. Hopefully you can figure out how to pick from different sessions in AirMeet. For this particular session, there's a chat. Have put questions in the Q&A. If this is a small group, we might invite some of you up on stage to ask your question directly. If not, I will read the question off to Josh and he can answer it. So we'll just see how it goes. And so again, if you do have a question and you want to come up on stage, you can use the raise hand feature. We'll see if that works or not. You can turn on subtitles. So try that. There's a little CC in a box at the bottom. And again, Josh will probably talk for 20 minutes or half an hour. So we expect lots of Q&A at the end. So be ready to be engaged. I think that's it for now. Are you all set, Josh?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, I'm just going to go back behind scenes and I'll come back later when it's time for some Q&A.
Thank you, Keith. Hi, good day, everyone. My name is Josh. I'm the Director of UX Indonesia and Customer Experience Insight based in Australia. In this conversation, I wear my hat as an Asian Development Committee liaison for Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore under the Executive Committee of Association of Computing Machinery, or ACM, Special Interest Group on Computer-Human Interaction, or SIGCHI. By the end of this conversation, you should have learned the UX stories in Southeast Asia and how we make its experience of users count in Southeast Asia. For the last 20 years, I have helped organizations optimize business value and accelerate digital transformation through agile human-centered design, business strategy, product design and strategy, and disruptive technology. I've worked with giant global enterprises as well as local micro startups around the world. When I reflected on the impact of my work in Southeast Asia, I realized that my focus has been on the impact of products and services on each individual experience of users. In other words, it is a mass customization of experience that I have been transforming for the last 2 decades. If you read the title of my conversation, you may think what's written does not make sense. I understand how you feel. Mass customization of experience itself is an oxymoron. However, this concept is not new. For you who are familiar with Java, the programming language, not the Indonesian island of Java, you may have heard the mantra, write once, run anywhere. That was popular in the 90s. We are now over 2 decades, but we have not seen this mantra as a reality. What has happened? Since 1995, there are 2 main disruptive innovations in people's daily lives that have changed the world, for better or worse. Disruptive does not mean that the innovations were invented after 1995, but they have profoundly changed and shaped our life. The first one is the internet, and the second one is mobile technology. Unfortunately, these 2 innovations have inadvertently created complexity for fulfilling the right ones, run anywhere mantra. But on the other hand, they have highlighted the importance of user experience, or UX, in any product and service design and development. How so? Stay tuned, the story has just begun, and this is my story. In this conversation, I will begin with several UX stories in Southeast Asia. Then, I will spend about 25 minutes sharing my stories and use about 35 minutes to engage in a conversation with you. I will structure the stories into 3 parts. The first one is penetration. The second one is integration. The third one is transformation. Now I will start with the stories of penetration in Southeast Asia. Setting up a context of Southeast Asia, or sometimes abbreviated as C or SIA, I will give you a brief introduction of its digital economy. So this is the map of the 6 largest economies in SIA. From the total of about 580 million people living in SIA, 70% are currently online. The COVID-19 pandemic itself has contributed to the growth of 10% new online users in the region. The majority of these new online users came from non-metropolitan areas in Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines, which happen to be the 3 largest economies in the SIA. The combination of mobile and internet penetration in these 3 countries have put SIA on the global map. In 2019, Southeast Asians were already outpacing Chinese and the rest of the world in embracing mobile technology. A higher proportion of the population in several SIA countries use smartphones for e-commerce, banking, and ride-hailing services than other countries globally. In 2019, Indonesia already had the world's highest mobile e-commerce penetration rate of 76% compared to the rest of the world average of 55%. Just before the global COVID-19 pandemic kicked in Q3 of 2019, 5 Southeastern Asian countries are already among the top 10 countries with the highest rate of adoption: Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam. While 65% of Thais access banking services through their mobile devices compared to the rest of the world average of 35%. On the use of ride-hailing services, Indonesians, Singaporeans, and Malaysians hailed rides with their mobile devices more than any other country in the world. For example, 49% of Singaporeans, 45% of Indonesians, and 31% of Malaysians hail a ride at least once a month, compared to 24% globally. Grab and an American headquartered Uber entered the Singapore market in 2013, and within 5 years, Grab acquired Uber's Southeast Asian operations. It is always a great feeling to be in the winning team, and that's why the first story I'm going to tell today is related to Grab. Indonesia has been its crucial success in competing with the first mover of Uber in Southeast Asia. So I have worked with Grab since 2016 in my capacity as the co-lead of UX research at UX Indonesia. On this occasion, I will share my experience with the design and development of one of their services, which is Grab Now. The success of this service can be measured by how we leverage local insights to create a positive change for both the riders and passengers, how we enable rides to commence quickly and seamlessly, and how we can ensure safety for both the riders and the passengers. First launched in Jakarta, Indonesia, the service borrowed the local wisdom of hailing a ride from locals. The traditional way of ordering a motorbike ride or ojek in Indonesia is by going to a pangkalan, or a place where the ojek drivers gather day and night. In the Western world of taxis, it is closely similar to the taxi rank, but in a very non-regulated, sometimes look messy, chaotic, and casual. Pangkalan is the place where the riders and prospective passengers bargain for a ride price. The challenge for Grab Now was how we could leverage this habit and custom into a winning service. After a product mass market fit was established, I was involved in the product user fit study for both the driver and the passenger. These screenshots were several examples of the Grab Now rider user interfaces when it was first launched. In the first screen, the 2 buttons at the bottom of the screen were the results of many prototype iterations. I was surprised that my theoretical knowledge of Fitts law to predict the time required to tap the buttons, and Higgs law to indicate the choice reaction time was crucial in the design. Among tons of other studies, we also studied which authentication methods were the most effective on the streets and how the authentication could work well in the local weather condition while leveraging the local habit and custom for authentication. You can see the results on the other screens. While I was not involved in estimating the mass market share of GrabNow, there was something that we could have done to make the service more valuable, which is the study of user journey share. The concept of user journey share is based on the fact that people have hundreds of jobs to be done in using mobile phones. If we understood the share of GrabNow's job to be done, we could have better improved the service. While user journey share is a topic for another conversation, I would like to highlight that the source of my theoretical knowledge of Fitts law and Higgs law was from academic publications. This is why ACM SIGCHI inspires my next UX story. When I co-founded the first UX startup in SIA in 2002, most of our work was related to research. Continuing what I've been doing in Germany, I became a member of the Association of Computing Machinery, or ACM, to access the latest research work and get in touch with other professional colleagues in human-computer interaction, or HCI. I became aware of ACM Special Interest Group on Computer-Human Interaction, or SIGCHI, when I was contacted to attend a SIGCHI Asia workshop in 2011. Even though I could not participate in the workshop, my co-founder managed to share and learn about the latest development of HCI and UX in Asia. It took us about 2 years to plan the best timing and penetration strategy for introducing ACM SIGCHI to Southeast Asia's HCI and UX community. After our first conference, UX Indonesia-Malaysia conference in 2014, the frequency and intensity of our activities in SIA kept growing and expanding, starting from Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and later the Philippines and Singapore. This year, the culmination of our work was Asian CHI Symposium 2021. For the 5th year, Asian CHI Symposium has attracted the world's leading researchers and practitioners in the field of human-computer interaction and UX in Asia and beyond. The symposium showcases the latest groundbreaking research and innovation from Asia and beyond by the Asian diaspora and focuses on incorporating Asian sociocultural factors in research and innovation related to how humans interact with technology. The key takeaway from these stories of relevance is that no one needs to build relationship and trust with locals. One needs to work with the right people at the right time, at the right place. And another facet of making its experience of user count in Southeast Asia is integration. The first story of collaboration is related to a B2B logistic company. Unfortunately, due to an NDA, I'm unable to mention the name of this company. However, this B2B logistic company's customers are the top e-commerce platform in Southeast Asia, including Shopee and Lazada. Therefore, they had a need to monitor and automate everything in real time. Or, in other words, having the capability of God's eyes and hands. Some of the critical areas where they want to monitor and automate everything consists of millions of internal and external data points every second, including from employees, stakeholders, and customers' transactions. While there were many challenges in the design and implementation of God's eyes and hands, as you can imagine, what I observed was a lack of understanding of users. Users here were employees, stakeholders, and customers. While they were busy implementing God's system for the mentioned users, they did not understand what the users need. The design was merely a grand idea of the CEO to be executed by the designers and the developers. The CEO thought that the system was the best solution to solve employee, stakeholder, and customer problems. But unfortunately, it was only the CEO's assumptions. Faced with this situation, I coached the CEO, and then the team started understanding why the CEO came up with the grand idea. Next, I used the 5 whys to explore the cause and effect relationships underlying their problems. I then continued with a simple persona exercise to understand their users and involve them in their design process. Once we dug deeper, we found another critical problem. There was a lack of collaboration between designers and developers. The customer information acquired by business development executives were often incomplete or changed once the executive passed them to the designers. The designers designed based on their creative ideas and gave the design to the developers. Every time the designers needed to hand over their design to the developers, they had to sit side by side. Developers took shortcuts or the easiest way of implementing the design because many of them could not be implemented or took a lot of time and effort to implement. This lack of design upset the designers. Does this sound familiar to you? There were many things that needed to be changed, but they started with one most important thing, a change of mindset. The team needed to understand that they needed to collaborate rather than passing on responsibilities. Now, the following story is a little bit sad. I was working with Mozilla Taipei team for their new features of Firefox Lite in 2019, after which COVID-19 pandemic hit. Unfortunately, their mantra of getting on the ground as much as possible was no longer feasible. Mozilla Taipei was shut down in 2020 due to the impact of the pandemic on its revenue. During my collaboration with Mozilla, we studied many things: mobile e-commerce, monetization, privacy and security, and data saving. While I cannot reveal the detailed study, I can share that our research actually revealed many insights and design decisions that work well for users in the emerging countries, but may not work very well for other well-developed countries, such as, for example, monetization and the behavior of comparing items in mobile e-commerce. Regarding collaboration, the Mozilla Taipei team has demonstrated how well an agile team may work. For example, as we tested the prototypes, I could transparently see how the team communicated well together, even though I was not involved in the internal organization. So the key takeaway from these stories of collaboration is that handover does not equal collaboration nor delegation. It should only happen when an employee leaves an organization. The following stories I will share is related to empowerment. So the first story of empowerment is inspired by my involvement in the Spotify Lite research in Indonesia. During the research, I learned that Spotify's mission to empower both artists and fans was driving its research in emerging countries such as Indonesia. While I cannot share the specific details of the research, I learned that brand loyalty corresponds directly to user freedom. This is why a balanced mix of recommended personalization and choice has become the main strength of Spotify's brand loyalty. Users still have complete control over choices while expecting recommended personalization that is relevant to personal preferences. AI has been up close and personal in Spotify, and lately Google, as I learned from my next engagements with Google in my next story. I was involved with Google for Startups Accelerator, or GFSE, or previously Google Launchpad Accelerator in 2016 in San Francisco, USA. After that, I started as a Google developer expert in UX and later Google mentor for product design and development. I've worked with startups around the world, including the ones from SIA. Meeting with hundreds of CXO from these startups around the world, I discovered that I learned from them as much as I give to them. For example, there are lots that I can learn from the logistic that works in South Africa that can be applied in SIA or vice versa. Unfortunately, due to the NDA, I cannot share the names of the companies in this story. In the same way, I mentored the CXOs on how they need to transform together with the users they wish to change, to design and develop transformative and impactful products that can make each experience of users count. I will share several insights in a minute. Many organizations do not realize that acquiring brand loyalty requires giving the user the freedom to choose. For example, a SEA company currently enjoys the privilege of being the only early mover, and the users do not have much choice due to the limited options. Many think that UX is not essential because they have an advantage as an early mover and because there is currently no direct impact of bad UX on the adoption, growth, and usage. Therefore, the current users have no options but to use the product with negative review. In one case, I introduced an example in an e-commerce platform on how certain early mover online payment providers lost to others once other payment methods with better UX. Now, beside optimizing your brand for search engine and putting ads on television, one of the most effective ways to empower users to discover your brand is through word of mouth recommendations. This is particularly true in Southeast Asia. By designing each experience of users well, users are more likely to recommend your products to others and be loyal to your brand without spending money for search engine optimization or advertisement. The key takeaway from these stories of empowerment is that there is so much technology can do. Still, without a change of mindset, technology may only become a tool of disempowerment, not a tool of empowerment. In designing experience, especially in SEA or Southeast Asia, there are many local pearls of wisdom that we still need to learn. Following the PIT framework of penetration, integration, and transformation, an organization should be able to use local wisdom for the benefit of innovating products and services that can make each experience of users count in Southeast Asia. And size does matter. There is no one size fits all. One needs to apply the PIT framework differently for giant global enterprises and local micro startups in Southeast Asia. Now, thank you for attending, and I look forward to having a conversation with you all. If you are interested in contacting me for a collaboration in Southeast Asia and Australia, please feel free to connect with me on the LinkedIn link provided in the slide and message me your interests. Thank you. Time to you again, Kit.
Thanks, Josh. That was great. We've got one question in the chat already, but I think some more will emerge as we have our own little conversation. So the first question comes from Intan. What works best to bridge the gap between designer and developer from your experience?
Okay, so the first thing is the change of mindset. I understand in some companies, especially the silo company with silos, with departments and everything, what usually happen is one department pass a responsibility to the other department, or the handover system happens there. And then the thing that I usually say is change the mindset. It's not about handing over, but it's about collaboration. Okay. Once we got that mindset, then we involve something more advanced like design system or design ops or different kind of things that we can do. But the first thing first, change the mindset. And the changing the mindset may take years, depending how receptive is the senior management or people, or if you have champion in the company, they will also be very fast. So it really depends how you approach the changing the mindset thing. But once the changing the mindset done, then all things will follow.
Thank you. So do you, with your experience in different parts of the world, are there some techniques that might work better in Southeast Asia versus? I mean, I'm in North America, so I'm so.
Yeah, I understand. In Southeast Asia, you have to work both ways. So the top down and the bottom up. Okay, you cannot just choose a top down or just bottom up, because it won't work. So the difficulty is that how you convince the senior management that the changing the mindset is important. But on the other hand, you have to make sure that everyone from the bottom up understand how actually this will benefit them in the long term. Okay, so this is bottom up, and top bottom is actually the thing. Now in US, probably you would say that okay, top down is enough, all right. But in sometimes well I don't know, but in Southeast Asia, definitely you have to do both of them. And sometimes even in the middle management as well, if they are not very sure about what's going on, they feel like left out. So basically, you have to cover your basis and everything. Yeah, so that's the tough thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love your answer. Top down, bottom up works in lots of different situations. And sometimes it's sort of the culture based on the world, and other times it's the company culture, right? I worked for IBM for 10 years, and there was a definite IBM culture that you had to work within in order to change mindsets in addition to get the work done. So great. Thank you for that answer. So the next question, what works? No, we've got that one. Oh, I think I marked the wrong answer as answered. So let me go back and check. So the next question, as a designer, how do we enhance our product business thinking so that we not only design for users, but also meet business goals?
Oh, okay. So this is a very good question, because if you put your head as a designer, usually you are only thinking, okay, I'm the designer, so this is my role. I make a product. I have to care about product design. I have to care about product development. um, but then sometimes there's another people there, business development or whoever, senior management responsible for the business goals. They say, okay, so this is, I want this. I don't care. I just want to grow of maybe 200% within 1 month. You do the design. I don't care, and then you just do it. Right now, your question is, how do we enhance our product business thinking so we not only design for users but also meet business goals? So sometimes what I ask the designers to do is actually to sit with the clients or customer, with the business team. So integrate them, get the designers to actually, even though some of the designers, what do they mean by ROI? I've never heard about ROI before. I don't understand how about the profit loss. I mean, there are some of the designers who are confused, but along the time they understand the most important is not all those business terms. The most important is what the clients want, what the user wants, and how actually your business team actually internalize those requirements into their business goals. And then as a designer, you can directly communicate with the business team. So now you want to increase the you want to introduce a new feature for the people, and then you realize, okay, we have the landing page, but there's a menu that the user have never actually clicked, right? So you try to connect that, and then you can have a good discussion with the business team. So that's how you, as designer, actually understand better how you can know the business goals. So that's usually one thing that I recommend. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So yeah, I found the question that I'd accidentally marked as answered. So a different sort of a different slant here. Could you share some insights of user behavior in developing countries?
Okay, so this is a very typical developing countries. Maybe is too wide. I just share my experience. Let's just focus on Southeast Asia, right? Um, for in Southeast Asia, one of the early thing is actually incentive. Like if you learn about behaviorism, it's called the operant conditioning. You give a discount, you give a cashback, you have free delivery. Those kind of things happen. All right. But what if every company let's say you are competing with the other 10, they are all doing the same. Okay. And then after a while, the users start to, okay, I choose this one, I choose this one, I choose this one. But what you actually want to do is the long term. Okay, so collecting points and everything, the discount is actually, you need to think about them as a scaffolding or structure for you to form their long-term behavior, because with the operant conditioning is not sustainable. Okay, in behaviorism, it's good. You train the user to check the bonus, you train the user to click that one and that one, but it just works so much, right? But you have to make sure that you have a better strategy than that. So that's actually it's quite a long discussion about behaviorism and everything. But most of the Southeast Asia, they start with that and then they stop there. So that's why they keep burning money until now, and then they got all of funding. But let's see who's going to stay forever like that. Nobody is going to stay forever like that.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because certainly there's some user behavior that might be unique to a certain part of the world, but there's also some behaviors that seem more universal. And so at the beginning, you mentioned SIGCHI, ACM SIGCHI, as this academic group that helped you learn some of this. Could you talk a little bit more about like what you learned from ACM SIGCHI? Because I think a lot of folks here don't even know that it exists, or even that there's a body of research out there about human behavior and technology.
That's correct, Kate. Yeah. So ACM SIGCHI is a volunteer organization. So it's non-profit organization based in US. And then from the one that actually very much interesting for me is actually the body of knowledge or research over there is very high quality. So for example, most of you have heard about how many users do you do on usability testing. All right, I received this question so many times in Southeast Asia. And then, okay, you can search to Google, you can find, this one, you got that one from Nielsen, you got 5. But then I would say, is it always 5? What about 3? What about 4? What about 20? All right. Then you start digging bigger off. And then you got the test that Nielsen did. And then I read the paper. Oh, that's how he did it. And then Jared Spool said, no, 5 is not enough. Right. And there was a paper also, but Jared Spool saying, arguing about the finding that 5 is not enough. And then I saw the context of Jared Spool. Oh, this is his context. So basically, he has a lot of different kind of personas. This is a different context and everything, but you can actually put into groups. So those kind of things will not happen. I wouldn't know that if I haven't read all the papers published in Kai, for example. So, but you just know, okay, 5, but 5 is not the fixed number. All right. But for many people, 5 is the magic number. Right. But that's not always the truth. So when I do go to clients and say, they come to me, okay, 5, we have done this for 5. Why do you choose 5? Yes, because Nielsen said it's 5. Right. But how do you know that Nielsen is always right? Okay. Then I pointed out, okay, you should have done this one and this one and this one and all. They just realized, because my basic of giving them advice or recommendation is all based on science, facts, and data. So they understand, okay, it's not always 5. So we can actually do this for different groups of 3 and 4 and so on and so on. So that's the thing, actually. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so it's definitely more complicated. It depends. And yeah, when I've taught user experience classes before, I've basically had to teach students also how to find information, because they would quote a Medium article that was the #1 hit on Google about how many users to test with, but you could, it's like a telephone game. The person that wrote that article was referencing somebody else, and eventually I drove them into the ACM digital library, where they could read perhaps like Jacob Nielsen's original article from 20 years ago when he made that claim. And then you can interpret that to understand it better. And then of course, you can, through references for that, you can find all the articles that have been written since then. Some of them say that number is completely wrong, right? So again, if you just want to do it a couple times, you could probably rely on that Medium article. But if you want to really be a professional at it, you're going to have to read the literature and you're going to have to understand it more. And then that can definitely help you a lot with clients as well. The clients say, I'm not going to pay you to do 6. You can actually cite some research that says, in this case, 3 may not be enough.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's right. Thank you, Keith.
Great. So let's go back to some more. So another question. As a UX writer, if I have some suggestions to improve the product workflow, what are the ways these suggestions can be conveyed to the product designers and product teams? So, right. So now here's somebody who's a writer who wants help working with designers.
Okay. So as a UX writer, this is quite different. I think UX writing has only been popular for the last several years. The only thing that I understand is because now, beside the interaction, the writing is actually quite powerful. You need to be able to do storytelling, different kind of things. How you have the UX into that writing is very important. The answer to your question is actually quite simple, because if you are part of the UX team, you should be working with the designers. You should be working with the others who are in the team. So basically, if you want to convey them to the product designers, you just use the normal thing. The one that I usually communicate with is actually using the design system. So as a UX writer, you have, let's say, you want to tell a story, and then you want to make sure that all the stories is implemented in the user interface. And now, if you have the design system, you as a UX writer can start making the template, right? So you define different kind of things, and then when the designer tried to design the user interface, and then they know, okay, so I just have to make this button maybe just 10 times 30, because from the design system made by you, the UX writer, there's a specification about the length of the character and the type of the font and everything. All right, so that would make things easier for the other designers. But despite design system is not 100% bulletproof. But I think the most important is you try to communicate with them as a team. So that's exactly, maybe that's what I can think of. But yeah, there's nothing special about that one. Whether you're a UX writer or UX designer or UX engineer, you can actually just collaborate as normal. You can have a workshop as well. So there are many things you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. I think part of the answer is how much you're part of the user experience team, right? If you're a key member of the user experience team, then all that collaboration should be happening automatically. If you're a UX writer in one part of the organization trying to work with the team in a different part of the organization, then your collaboration method might be different. So. Excellent. So Eunice chimed in with a little bit more about SIGCHI, so I pinned that in the chat for folks to read. We have another question about collaboration, but this time it's around user-centered design and DevOps during a pandemic when people are working remotely, right? So what things are different when you're collaborating in person and you can share a drink while you're in your workshop? That's one thing, but right? How do we collaborate remotely?
All right. The pandemic has been a challenge for many, right? I'm just going to speak based on the Southeast Asia, all right? Because in Southeast Asia, even though the internet penetration is quite high already, the problem is with the connection is the stability. It's very unstable. So the things that number one is unstable. The second one, people are not used to doing online communication, even though they are now forced for many reasons. The interesting thing is that the culture of having, like, say, drink together or eating together now started to build around the workplaces as well. which is quite good. But still, the problem with the Southeast Asian is face-to-face interaction is still important. Okay, so it may take another year or two to change completely online. It's easier for me to speak with someone in Sweden online, and then they understand that I cannot go to Sweden, and then let's do it online. Let's do it online. It's good. But the problem with some Southeast Asian countries or Asian countries in general, they expect you to be there. Even though pandemic, I don't care. You need to be here. All right. Or at least you have some people over there on the ground as your representative. So that is very important. Okay. Even though I can do online here, the internet connection is good. Well, it feels like different for them. So this is actually one of the things. The other thing, if you could see that my slides before, the pandemic has actually changed the demographic of the people. Before, they haven't used any technology, haven't used internet, but suddenly now they see, oh, this box is so amazing. All right, this internet thing is so amazing. This mobile phone can do a lot of things. All right, and then this is actually is going to be uh, very very fast, because from our experience from the past, actually Southeast Asians is actually most of them, they leapfrog the technology. They do not use they use the mobile phones to access the internet. They don't care about the, so if you see the graphic of the internet penetration, most of them are mobile phones. They don't care about computer, they don't care about laptop. As long as I have mobile phone, that will be, that's why the mobile e-commerce is actually one of the highest. So anything to do with mobile technology and internet in Southeast Asia is very, 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 the growth is very, very high. So that's the thing that things need to happen. So if things needs to happen online with the work collaboration, start with the mobile first. Okay, maybe Zoom is happening now on the screen. I'm still using my laptop now, but if you could make things work in mobile, because I've started using Zoom on mobile now. I don't know it's me or others, but others start doing that one as well. Even with the online, they use, okay, they're doing the meeting online with the phone. So that's kind of thing that is needs to be considered. Yeah.
Great, great. We've got, I think, one more question that has just come in, and then we'll probably wrap up. So from Vinay again, how is the UX case study method useful in collaboration with team members and the clients? What are the key insights and takeaways for UX writing from case studies?
Okay, case studies. Case studies are actually not very much into the UX writing, because if your UX writing is very very good, the users wouldn't actually, like say, okay, let me share you an experience. So when I did the design for the Grab now, we played around with so many UX writing for the buttons, for the messages and everything, right? So when you heard my Grab Now case study, if you are a UX writer, you would see the writing there on the buttons. You would see the messages when they are authenticating and everything, because that's your job, right? But in general, yeah, in general, not so many people would care about should we use and or should we use or those kind. But if you're a UX writer, you should know your stuff. That's your forte. You need to look into more details. But so that's what, when you have a case study and then you want to get something more specific on the UX writing, make sure or the user interface, the screenshots are very very clear, because that's what you have your UX writing there. So in null condition, in empty condition, or in while whatever processes, that you will see in the user interface. So that's mostly if you are looking from the UX writer. The business case and everything will be some additional. The social context is also important. But at the end of the day, from the your point of view as UX writer, the user interface is over there, how the writing the text and everything, how the story flows, it's the most important. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, Vinay is agreeing with you and saying thank you very much for your answer to those questions. It looks like we're all out of questions. So again, Josh, thanks for the overview and the great stories.
Thank you, Keith.
From Southeast Asia. And I just want to reinforce that you can learn more about SIGCHI over in the booth, and you can find local chapters and even learn about the committee that Josh is on, right? In case you want to get more involved in the SIGCHI community in Southeast Asia, there's different representatives from different countries. So we encourage you to, 24 hours of UX is great, but it's one day out of the year. The other 364 days, excuse me, as my cat is interested. The other 364 days, there are lots of meetup groups and other, especially local SIGCHI chapters that you could be hanging out with to learn more, and especially to help you connect with academia, right? Which is often a problem for practitioners that are new to user experience. They didn't study UX in college, so they're not sure where the academics are at their local university. So this was great. Just to let you know that this wraps up hour 10. Coming up in hour 11 is 2 different panels, one from UX Budapest about collaboration, which we've talked about, and also from World IA Day. So World IA Day is an event that happens in February that connects folks specifically on information architecture. And if you like this talk, in hour 14, so in about 3 hours, is one about user experience in the Arabic part of the world, right? So again, which I think you'll hear some similar stories where what's universal about human behavior and what's different in different parts of the world. So again, Josh, thank you very much for joining us and presenting all this great information. We'll wrap up the session. You've got a few extra minutes to go hang out in the lounge, check out the SIGCHI booth, or just go, for me, I'm going to go grab a quick lunch before the next session,
okay.
so I can eat while I watch. So
thank you, everybody. Keith. Thank you, everyone. Have a good lunch, Keith. Bye for now.